Okay, this is going to be a short tutorial on the use of a program called TINKERCAD. I have no vested interest in anyone using TINKERCAD, and I'm in no way associated with TINKERCAD. However, there are a number of advantages of choosing this program, the most obvious one being it runs within a web browser, which means there's nothing to install on your computer, so it gives you a sense of security. You're not having to download something off the internet you don't know about, and also it means that this should work within most schools and colleges. So you have to sign up for TINKERCAD. You'll need to enter an email address and they will ask you to verify your age. If you enter an age under 18 years of age, you will also have to give a parental email address for verification purposes. If you are over 18 years of age, you just sign up directly for it. So here we are, we've logged in using our sign-in, and this is what we see on the screen. We have a work plane, neatly gridded out so we can use that. That can be moved by gripping this little block over here and turning that around so that we get the best view for whatever we're trying to draw. But then let's talk through the menus. So up here on the top left, we've got some fairly common icons for copy, for paste, to duplicate and repeat something, or to delete something. Over on the right at the top, we have the Show All button. We have the Group and Ungroup, which we will use quite frequently. We have the Align tool and the Mirror tool. And then we come over here to the right-hand panel where we have these different shapes. And if we scroll down, we can see there are all sorts of things: rounded roofs, text, pyramid, wedges, etc. Okay. Let me explain before we go any further how we work the process of drawing in CAD software. We use a technique called divide and conquer. So whatever it is we're trying to draw, we break it down into its most basic and simple shapes. A van might be an extended box with a wedge shape of some description put on the front of it to represent the sloping windscreen, and then some cylinders turned on their sides and shortened to represent the wheels. And it really is that simple. We just break a shape down into its most basic elements, draw them and join them together. Okay. Also on this menu there are a number of other options: text and numbers, characters and so on. You can explore those at your leisure. All I want to do now is illustrate some absolute basics of how to draw and how to get started, because it's getting that first foothold that's the difficult bit. Once we've understood some really basic principles, we can just go on playing with it and exploring and get good at it. Okay, we're going to start off by drawing part of a simple ring spanner. So again, this idea of breaking things down to the most absolutely basic. If you imagine the ring end of the ring spanner as being a cylinder, we'll do it 4 millimeters thick, with a hole in the middle, we'll just represent it as that, and then the handle of the spanner is going to be there, and the head of the spanner could be over here. So what we'll do is we'll drag on another cylinder, only this one we're going to make rather smaller. So we'll move that to where we can actually work on it out from underneath the menu. We'll pull that smaller. Rather than it being 20 by 20, we're going to make it maybe, I don't know, 13 by 13 or 12 by 12 or something like that. Let's see how we go. There is a problem, by the way, with using CAD on wide screens, because it tends to distort what you're doing, but there you go. Okay, 12 by 12. We'll shrink it down a little bit as well, doesn't matter how much. And before we put that in the middle, because at the moment it's a solid cylinder, so we just end up with a cylinder on top of a cylinder, we're going to turn this into a hole. Now this is a bit of a strange concept, the idea of drawing a hole. You normally think of making a hole in something. Well, in this case, we've drawn a hole here. Then holding down the Shift key on the keyboard, we click on our other shape, selecting them both. And then up here on the right-hand menu, we're going to use the Align tool, which immediately pops out a number of possibilities, including the one we want to use, which is we're going to align and center both objects in both X and Y axis. So we now have a hole aligned in the middle of a cylinder. The problem is it doesn't look much like we want it to do yet. So while they are both still selected, we come up to the right hand side here and we click on our Group tool And there you have your ring spanner end. Now, of course, it doesn't really look quite like a ring spanner, does it? Because we'd expect to have the sort of the notches for the spanner head going around, but it'll do for our purposes at the moment. Okay, let's imagine the handle of the spanner. So let's drag a box onto our work plane. And this box we're going to pull down in height until we get down to the same thickness, which was 4 millimeters. You can see how quickly and easily that works there. I've just gone to 3 by mistake. There you go, there's 4. We're also going to need to make it rather narrower. So we'll take it in this direction, maybe down to 10. And then we're going to make it long enough to really represent the handle of a spanner. Let's go back out to 10 by, struggling a bit here with this mouse, 10 by 55. Okay, all right, that's absolutely fine. Now, what we're going to do now is move this to the point where not only is it touching this, but it's actually slightly embedded. And then we're going to select both parts, and we're going to use our alignment options again. But this time, it says actually, look, it's already highlighted to indicate that we had already got it aligned. Now we're just going to zoom in, so I'm using the middle wheel here, zoom in slightly, and also rotate it slightly so we can see what we're doing. Seem to have gone down underneath it now, so let's hold down the middle button of the mouse and drag it across. You can see that although they are aligned, they're not actually quite touching, so I'll need to pull this down this way very slightly. I want to end up with this part, this object, slightly embedded in this one, and then I'm going to select both parts. I could click and use the Shift key, or I could do this, and again I'm going to group. And there we go. Okay, now just not to get ahead of ourselves, but we can flick that back so it looks a bit more like that. You can see how we could do a fairly similar thing on the other end, another cylinder, scroll down, and maybe this time we will put in a polygon to represent the open-ended part of the spanner. But rather than do that, I want to cut this tutorial short and show you just one more thing. I don't think we really want an orange spanner. So we click over it, we click on there, and that brings up a range of options, including, for example, a silvery grey colour, which looks far more realistic. And that's it. There's nothing to save. It's constantly saving this for you as you go along. Next time you log in, you will simply come up with a list of all your projects on the screen, and you select the one you want to work on and carry on with it. You can export this as an image file, or you could, of course, end up 3D printing this. Those are the basic steps in using TinkerCAD. That's literally all there is to it. You can go on drawing and adding and aligning and subtracting holes from things for as long as you want to. You could add text along the spanner using the text option down here, text and numbers. The sky's the limit. Just practice and get good at it.